Welcome back to the Ingredients for Success podcast. I'm Andrew Rice.
And I'm Jackie Rizzo.
Today we have with us Adam Brown. Adam is the founder and president of Sircle Media. It is an agency based out of New York City. He helps brands navigate through social media and digital. Some of his writing's been featured on Social Media Today, as well as Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And he is also a host on his podcast, Consumer Packaged. Welcome on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Cool. Well, we're going to get started. I'm going to ask you what we call the Fast Five, just a few questions to get to know you a little bit. So without further ado, we'll get into that. Best book you've read in the last 6 months?
I haven't read any books in the last 6 months.
Shoot, podcast. Favorite podcast in the last 6 months?
Favorite podcast? I just listened to In the Sauce, which is Allie Kane from Haven's Kitchen. And she interviewed one of my clients, Chris Kirby. I listened to it yesterday, and that's probably my favorite one in the last 6 months.
Cool. All right. Coney dog or pizza slice?
I'm a pizza slice guy, New York.
Okay. Magic Spoon, grain-free, frosted or cocoa?
I guess cocoa.
Okay. Your favorite social platform other than MySpace?
LinkedIn for sure.
And Michigan or Ohio State?
Let's get serious here. There's only one answer to that. Go Blue, Michigan all day.
Okay, I thought so. After reading through there, I had to throw that one in there after reading through.
I get it. It's part of my brand, so for sure, Michigan.
Adam, first I want to say that I appreciate your videos that you have started doing on LinkedIn. They're like 2 to 4 minutes. Yeah, and packed full of advice that I think any brand can use at any time. So thank you for that. One thing that I've noticed is that you have accomplished something that many have not, and that is being relatable on social media. But your background, you didn't actually start in social media marketing. Is that correct? It was in the finance mortgage arena?
Yeah, no. In case you can't tell by my super young face, I'm old enough that I predate social media. And even prior to my last career before that, I actually started out of college during the dot-com boom in like 1999, 2000 in online advertising. So I actually first got my start in digital marketing and online advertising.
From the beginning of your time with digital marketing, how is it that you journeyed into and have become so invested into the natural products industry?
I think when I started in digital marketing in 1999, 2000, I worked at a company called 24/7 Media. And what we actually did was we sold the advertising on behalf of like 5,000 websites. So these are websites that started, they wanted to create advertising revenue and they needed a sales force. So I cut my teeth in selling across all these different platforms for all these different businesses, all of whom had no understanding of digital marketing. And I thought to myself, this is interesting, right? This is like a high growth area. It's not going anywhere. I was early on the internet, a big believer. And I thought to myself, this is like white space, right? Like brands are not going to know how to go about this. They're too busy building their own business. So it's going to be very hard for them to learn the digital marketing landscape. So that was like a pin in it for me. In 2001, right after 9/11, I pivoted completely and I went into business with my brother, and I was in the mortgage industry. And that is an industry I did not love. I was in it for like 9 years. But what I did learn was we had at our peak 1,000 employees, probably an average of like 650 employees, let's say. And I ran sales and marketing. During that time, I did $1 million rebrand. We spent $2 million a month on marketing for like a small, relatively small company. That's a lot of dollars. And so we would do television, radio, out of home, and digital marketing. And again, all these salespeople would come in and they knew nothing, right? You get like a 22-year-old with an oversized suit come in and sell you SEO or AdWords or whatever it might be. Some of them had good intentions. Most of them were just getting in on a fad. They knew nothing. And again, I thought to myself, like, this is crazy. Like, we're spending all this money. You have these people selling us. They know nothing. We know nothing, and we're pretty advanced. So businesses have to struggle with this. And I feel like there's a lot of shysters out there, and even the non-shysters, it's too siloed, it's too fractured, and there's always going to be this like really miserable experience. I call it like jilted lover syndrome, right? People date, meaning they market, they hate the experience, but they have to get out there and date again. So it's this constant flow of aggravation. So when I created Sircle Media, I said, look, I want to create a 4 seasons level service agency that actually is like bonkers off the charts from a service point of view, and that solves for the actual needs of businesses, not what I can sell to them, but what they actually need. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of that came from being in the mortgage business, right? Like, I'm a good salesman. It's definitely my number one skill, but I'm not an ice to the Eskimo type of salesman. Like, I really believe that sales is defined as helping people make decisions that are good for them. And while in the mortgage business, I did that, it's still sort of like a seedy industry. I always felt a little bit like not so comfortable about it. And so I knew I wanted to reinvent my life in a business where I knew that I could have tangible, actual impact on the business, and then get behind something that I really believe in. When I started, I did anything. I would take any business I could get. But really in the last few years, I wanted to get into an area where I really believed and used the products, right? So better for you CPG, beverage, even spirits are things that I like to consume. And it just makes me a better marketer and a salesperson when it's something that I use and that I can get behind. So that was like my quick Cliff Notes journey from then till now.
I really appreciate it. It reminds me that any experience that we have is not lost. And so, yes, you were in the mortgage company, but that was actually your foundation to see what is needed out there in terms of marketing, and then to hone it in and actually fine tune, I guess, and focus in on the natural product industry is it's very insightful and inspiring.
Yeah, it's I think outside perspectives in specific industries, any industry, are a good thing, not a bad thing. I think, long ago we were taught that, like, let's only hire people that come from this industry, and we're only going to get these people because they know this industry. But I think what we've learned, and maybe to your point about kind of the evolution of social media and like, even companies that were offering those solutions early on were kind of, I don't want to call them shysters either, but I think they probably had good intentions, but they really didn't know, how to capitalize on these channels and platforms. And so I think that, that also mixed with the fact that it is really good to have outside perspective in any industry, because there are these little things that you just get used to, you just kind of become numb to, or you're not looking for, that I think can just create some really quick wins when you're able to look at things through the lens of somebody a little bit different with different experiences. So I think it's awesome, and I really think that that's probably what has helped you in the natural food space, is having that non-objective external view on some things, but also that passion like I have with all natural eating, and just our whatever we're ingesting is natural, and really trying to, I love it as well. I love the brands. I love everything we're doing in this space right now. And so when you get something that you're passionate about mixed with something else you're really passionate about, I just think it's a good recipe for success.
Good mix, yeah.
For sure.
So having been in the ad agency world most of my career, I think it's just been amazing to watch the evolution of social and digital, and really watching brands as they gain this really thorough understanding of who their customers are, how to use influencers, and really how to grow their business, especially startups these days, really solely through social media. And so as important as I feel it is, and I know as important as you feel social media plays a part, I just want to get into talking about social media and really what that looks like today, and maybe even some advice you have for brands today as it pertains specifically to them building their brand through social media. So I guess let's just open it up. You know, what are you seeing today that brands could be doing, and what let's just talk about social media as it relates to functional food, beverage, and in our industry.
So I think what I hope sets me apart is I'm really pragmatic. I'm almost like a Bain consultant that's helping these companies, even though my entree is social media. And I think a lot of other social media agencies are coming in as social media agencies, off the thread of what I said before. It's a huge growing industry, social media. There's a gazillion agencies out there. It's a young man and woman's game. So anyone can go out, start an LLC or an S Corp, hang their shingles, suddenly they're a social media agency. So what do you do in those situations? You cater to what customers want. So they want to talk about Instagram followers and a lot of like fluffy vanity things. So that's what people sell to. Like, oh, that's what you want? Sure, that's what we'll do. And that's why there's jilted lover syndrome, because most of that doesn't work and it's actually not what matters. So what we really focus on is like pragmatic brass tacks, like what actually matters. So I say to business owners, forget the name of social networks, forget your philosophy on influencers. Let's just talk about your actual business. What do you want to have happen? You want to grow retail velocity? You want to grow your e-commerce business? Like which one of those? And a lot of times it's both. And they're like, okay, so as such, there's probably a different strategy for both. That makes sense, right? And the answer is yes. And then, okay, great. So now how are you differentiating your supplement? Like, here, and you're speaking specifically supplement. Here's one of my clients, little plug for Mantra. And you say to yourself, great, this is a great product. The person behind it is a really smart guy, entrepreneur. He created this thing. I'm drinking it while I speak. You can feel my energy right now from this thing. But there's a hurdle to it, right? It's a supplement. People are innately sketched out by supplements. I don't know what this is. I don't know what it's going to do to me. I don't have familiarity with it. So I need to be educated. I need to be told about it, right? So even one more tick than your average like CPG or beverage of like taste and maybe flavor profile, it's like, what will the ingredients do to me? You're claiming it's going to do something positive for me, but I don't know. What if I have a bad reaction? How do I know that you're not a hack or a kook? So there's so much storytelling that goes into it, so that it starts there. What is the story? How do you get into this? Why is it good? How is it proven? Who else has taken it? So it's not, the first time to the rodeo and I'm your guinea pig. Like, all these things need to happen before you start talking about Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Snap. Like, those are irrelevant. A lot of times when I get on the phone with somebody, they start with, let's talk about Facebook or Instagram, or I don't believe in influencers. And it's like, you're already on third base. We got to start at first base. What is your product? Why does it matter? Why is it different? How will it help? Where can someone buy it? Let's package all that and create a story. If you want awareness, Facebook ads, Instagram ads. Right now, ads are through the roof. We have an election. We have Q4. So Snap and TikTok and Pinterest, some of the what I would consider second tier ad platforms in the social media network space, represent opportunity and value, because everyone's putting their dollars in Facebook, Instagram. That'll probably change after Christmas. So that's an area where you can storytell. All of those platforms are a little bit less strict than Facebook and Instagram when it comes to supplements and claims. So again, value. And then influencers. Like, I can't tell you, it's like talking about like religion. Like, you talk about it with influencers. Some people are all about it and some people are like philosophically against it. And I just think we should call it something else, to call it like schminfluencer, right? Or widget. If it was called something different and I told you, okay, you have a very specific message that you want to deliver to a very specific audience, that you can control the narrative, wouldn't that be a good thing? The answer is of course, yes. And if I could find you a man or a woman or whatever that could carry that message to exactly who you're targeting for very inexpensive cost, that would make sense, right? Yes, of course that would make sense. Great. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use influencers, we're going to use paid social, and we're going to do heavy storytelling content, especially when it comes to supplements or things that you're going to put on or in your body, so that people feel warm and fuzzy about it, they can get behind it, and they will try it. And it's like old school marketing for like 100 years. It has nothing to do with social media. Awareness, consideration, and trial. And if it's good, how do we get them to come back for more? So that's our overall approach to social. And again, that was probably longer because I'm long-winded, but that's my succinct answer to like how you should be thinking about social media, especially as you go into 2021.
Yeah. I love what you're saying, Adam. We always, one of the things that we're always talking about here, and something that you hit on early on when you're talking about, like, when you start having these conversations about social media, we don't ever want it to be a conversation where it's like, okay, what can I do on Facebook, Instagram, and all these things because I know that they're trending, or I know it's platforms that consumers are on, or whatever. And I think more brands need to understand, no matter how big they are or how new they are, they need to understand who they are as a company, who their consumers are, and what their consumers actually want. Trying not to talk about yourself over and over again, really trying to make sure it's all about the customer. But then also gaining a really thorough understanding, because of that discovery phase, of what channels are actually gonna work for you and how will they work for you based on the product that you are selling. So I thought, I agree totally. We have to understand who we are as a brand first, who our consumer is, and how we're going to sell. The influencers, it is one of those things that I wish it had another name too at this point, because at the end of the day, we do all know that influence has sold products since the guys selling Coca-Cola out of the back of the wagon, right? This is not new. But for some reason, we called it influencers. We put this shiny golden star on it, and then now people are like, oh, influencers, look, like you said, awareness, consideration, trial. These are all things. You're trying to build this awareness and then that consideration. The fastest way to do that, oh, I trust that person and what they're saying, so I will give this a shot. So we know influencers will work, but just like everything, it has to have a strategy to back it up, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I think influencers are wildly helpful and productive. They just have a terrible branding problem. That's why a new name would make a lot of sense. And again, everything I do top to bottom is just like pragmatic. Maybe it's because I'm in my 40s and I'm not 25, like business pragmatism, right? So you're saying Coca-Cola out of a van. We're talking thousands of years before that, there's been influence, right? So, if there's somebody that would wield influence and they can work with me in some way and carry the torch or the message that I want to convey, why would I be closed-minded to work with them? Like, logically, it doesn't make sense. So I just think if you're closed-minded to it, you're going to leave a lot of opportunity on the table, right? It's like you're going to leave a few clubs in your golf bag, and like, why make it harder? You have all the clubs for a reason. You have to just rethink how you're going to use them so that you can have a full, well-rounded game. That's the analogy I would use.
I do. I think that's great. I think that a lot of times, most of us would think of social media followers as the vanity metric, but it isn't really about the number of followers that we have, but it's about the content. And you recently did a video, maybe it was yesterday, on content, about curated content, original content. And I'd love for you just to kind of hit on that a little bit, of the importance of, it's not about the followers, but about what's on the page. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I could talk about this forever. I know we're running up on time, but I'll say, just think about it again, logically. You have Instagram followers, and back in the day, it used to be very easy to get them. You would start an account, you would do stuff, and you would get followers, and then their followers would engage because they would see it. But Instagram and Facebook, who owns Instagram, went public years ago. And when they went public, they need to make money. So they need to sell ads. So they make organic reach go down and down and down. Anyone with an Instagram account, especially a business page, has seen their reach and engagement go down, right? So it's not like I'm saying something that hasn't happened yet. And so as such, it doesn't matter if your number is 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, you're not reaching it. You're reaching a very small percentage of those people. And for most brands that are trying to get their word out there, they're looking for new eyeballs. Like, the number one KPI that I hear from any brand is new awareness. I want to reach new vegan moms. I want to reach CrossFit athletes. I want to reach new people. So then it doesn't matter if you're banking followers, if your main goal is to reach new people, right? So just in the nature of saying that sentence, the followers, they're already on the boat, so they don't matter, because we're going to keep marketing and spending our dollars towards the new eyeballs. Once you get into that shift, you're like, okay, I'm going to go after new eyeballs as I expand my e-com business, or my retail footprint around the country, around the world. And if you think about that logically, if you have 100,000 followers and you're a New York brand or an East Coast brand, and then you land Sprouts and you're all high-fiving, the follower count's irrelevant because you probably have very few fans in California because you're a New York East Coast brand. So it just doesn't make any sense. When it comes to content, I think you just have to have a philosophy of like, what are you trying to say? Who is your brand? What do you want to have happen? The personality, why people should care, why it's different. It's your baby, articulate it. A lot of brands don't get there until they actually sit with a branding firm and everyone's like, oh my God, this is the best branding firm ever. And it's because, and maybe there are tons of great branding firms out there, but what branding firms do is they just finally get you in a room and you actually have a thorough conversation about the brand. So no matter who it is, unless they stink, it's almost always this great cathartic experience. You're like, oh my God, yes, I'm talking about it. And I'm a Ferrari or I'm a Jeep Cherokee, or like, what is my brand? This is my brand. And it just helps you articulate your message and your vision. So I think that's an important thing to do if you can afford a branding firm, or if not, just like sit in a room, whiteboard it out, like this is who we are, this is who we want to target, and then go out there with that messaging. But sprinkle on, in the end of the day, what do you want to have happen? So it's not just a color grid Instagram that's pretty and flows with purples and pinks. That's not what you want to have happen. That's what someone told you should focus on. What you want to have happen is that somebody goes into GNC or Vitamin Shop or Wegmans and buys your product. So I always say, don't go so smart you go stupid. Like, don't overly craft that and then never have your packaging in any of your posts, because how are they possibly going to remember you when they're walking in Wegmans if they never saw your logo? It would be impossible. And when I tell this to brands, they're like, oh my God, you're right. I haven't posted once in the last 3 months, our logo. So you just got to keep it really, really simple. Figure out your content messaging, make sure the label is seen, especially if you're a retail first brand. And then just understand that you don't have to make all the content yourself. We call that created content, where you're an original songwriter. You should control like half of your diet, and the other half is curated stuff, other stuff, fan photos, things. If you're targeting CrossFit athletes, like grab a Neil Maddox post or something, or someone who's more popular now. I'm dating myself like 5 years ago, but like whoever's the hottest guy or girl in CrossFit, like share some of their stuff. That's probably going to be relevant to a CrossFit audience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It does.
I think, we're running short on time. I think I just wanted to go over a couple of things, and that would be like some things, here we're in November, New Year's upon us. Like, what are we looking forward to in 2021 in regards to social media? I know one thing that I'm excited to see kind of what happens with it, but Instagram, IGTV, and the ability to watch video and just within a couple of clips just purchase straight through that experience on social media, and just the ability for brands to be able to track influencers and the monetization of all of that with influencers, but also that curated content as well. And I think it will give us, to what you were kind of talking about a second ago, I think it's going to give us a better ability to not have to go to all these different places. And even if you have some sort of aggregation software to really piece all of the data in one spot, I think that the Instagram shopping, IGTV, will really help brands understand the value and how they can monetize the influencers, and as well as their value on consumers through their curated content as well as influencers. So anyway, what about you? 2021, what are you looking forward to on social media?
Yeah. All right. So first, I can't wait for this election to be over. I just think there's whoever wins, like there's a lot of attention there. There's a lot of negative there, and it's cannibalizing a lot of the eyeballs and awareness on social. So that's not great. Who the hell knows what's going to happen with this pandemic? There's already lockdowns abroad. You think it's probably going to come back here in the US. So for CPG, beverage, and spirit brands that have flourished during this time, really thinking about a round 2 of this and making sure you have all your ducks in a row. So I think a lot of brands focused on like heavy focus on direct to consumer when they weren't doing it at all. And now I feel like some of them are like wavering. They're like, you know what? Maybe I don't need to do that. Maybe it'll be fine. Like, stay the course, continue to figure out your direct to consumer, your website, your ability to build landing pages, your understanding of the Facebook and Instagram ecosystem, using influencers, and email and SMS. Like, those are areas that every brand should be focusing on across the board, especially if you have any aspirations of doing anything successful when it comes to direct to consumer. Specifically, sort of on the heels of your question, yeah, like whether it's 80-20 or it's like 79-21 or like whatever your mix is, really double down on the good stuff and that, Facebook, Instagram ads, influencers, content, all these things, and then a little bit of testing. So just keep test Instagram Reels. At this point, it's probably like, you're not late, you're certainly not early, like you're right where you should be on Instagram Reels. TikTok is a weird one, as far as like putting out content, but I think it's like, have a philosophy per platform. So we tell clients, even though you might not post on TikTok right now and it sort of seems forced, influencers are great on TikTok. So it's like if there were different restaurants, you'd say like, TikTok is a sushi restaurant. I don't like sushi, but I gotta find something there that I like. So they have chicken teriyaki. All right, I'll go with chicken teriyaki. So that's what I would do on TikTok. It's a weird analogy, but I see you smiling, so I think you get what I'm saying. Like, pick your flavor and what works for you on each platform. Don't be so binary that you hate influencers or you don't like giving Mark Zuckerberg money, or you do just have I would say a reset in the next 2 months, thinking about 2021 with a clean slate, rebrand all the terms, think about what you want to do, and then find somebody like me or somebody else who kind of knows what they're doing in the business, and just get a newly informed decision and philosophy about how you're going to attack each thing. Don't put your head in the sand, because if you do, a year from now, you're going to be kicking yourself that you didn't really double down on 2021, because this is a real exponential growth for the ones that do, growth year for the ones that do, and it's a potential real hurdle and fall back to the pack for those that don't.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Adam. Well, I think that's it for today. Adam, thanks so much for coming on. I know the brands and audience out there listening is going to gain a lot from listening to this podcast. So thanks for coming on, and I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure, man. I appreciate you both. Thanks for having me. This was great.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.